promos. It's for the NFL. It's this week.
Great.
Baseball's been killing me.
Time for us to go viral. All right, North Carolina took down South Carolina 24-20 in Mac Brown's debut in his second stint as the UNC head coach. Great win for a team that went 2-10 last season, but better than the win. Check Mac out after the game. What's up? How you doing?
Forever young. That's what young kids do for you.
68 years old, man.
They're like Nick in the middle of the dance floor.
First of all, no, it doesn't. I don't appreciate
More flexible
that.
than
Second of all, good for Mac Brown, man. Nice little win against their, not cross-state rivals, but their border rivals in South Carolina. After spending some time in television, was choked up after the game, man, and it looked like they were cooked in this game.
Yeah, it did.
Nice little back-to-back touchdowns to cap a comeback. Happy for Mac Brown, man.
Forever young, man. Being around young kids, surround yourself with young people, keep that energy right.
Nice weekend of college football.
Oh, man, a bunch of great comebacks, too.
Oh, man, that Oregon game.
Time for stories to start your morning, sponsored by Gillette Clear Gel. Heisman hopeful Jalen Hurts started off his campaign with a bang last night in his Oklahoma debut, finishing 20 of 23 with 332 passing yards, 3 touchdowns to go along with 176 rushing yards and another 3 scores on the ground. Oklahoma took down Houston 49-31. So, Nick, should we just pencil in Lincoln Riley and the Sooners for a 3rd straight Heisman?
Well, listen, you can't pencil them in for the Heisman yet, but damn, this is impressive.
They got a kid in Clemson.
Oh, absolutely. They got a kid in Clemson.
2 kids in Clemson.
There's a running back in Wisconsin. There's a lot going. But what he did yesterday was absolutely remarkable. I'll be honest. I went out to dinner with my wife last night, so I was missed about the middle portion of this game. And when I get back in the car, I check Twitter, and I see someone tweet that Jalen might go for 400 and 200. And I was like, no, what? I look at the, I'm like, oh, it was on the board that he was going to have 400 passing, 200 rushing, and 6 or 7 touchdowns. As impressive of a debut as you possibly could have in Bart. I'll tell you what I'm rooting for. Could we get Oklahoma, Alabama in the playoff? See Jalen Hurts' little revenge game?
Oh, I tell you what, he reminds me of Dak Prescott. He's pretty much like Kyler Murray within this system. This system is perfect for him because he has to prove to NFL evaluators that he can throw the football and throw the football on time. So it's important. It's all about location, location, location. And I feel like this is a perfect marriage because with all that spread offense, you're going to have a lot of man-to-man doubling, and there are a lot of defenders going to have their back turned. He's going to be able to utilize his ability to make people miss in space. This is a perfect marriage.
And nice to go against that U of H defense. That was terrible last year and looks terrible again.
Moving on to Ezekiel Elliott now. Rumors and reports were out there that the Cowboys were close to wrapping up contract talks with Zeke, but Yahoo's Charles Robinson is reporting the opposite, that the team is, quote, frustrated with the latest exchange with Zeke's camp. Bart, are we going to see Zeke in week 1?
I don't think week 1. I think you see him week 2. Even if he got in late this week, what kind of pitch count could he be on? I think they don't fear the New York Football Giants. And then you look after that, it's the Washington Redskins. I think Jerry Jones is trying to get a little leverage, saying, hey, look, we can win without you. You know, I'm willing to sit this thing out. It's about principle. I was there for you. I supported you. Show me some love back.
I think it's really interesting that as of Sunday morning, the report was they are close to consummating a deal. And then Charles Robinson, who's an excellent reporter, same reporter reported the Cowboys were frustrated with how talks had gone. So that appears to be one of those, all right, I think we're close. And then at the last second, the player's like, I want this, which, by the way, is one of my favorite negotiating tactics as well. So I don't begrudge him that, but it might cost him week 1.
All right, moving on to LeSean McCoy.
Always at the end, ask for a little bit more.
The All-Pro running back was cut by the Bills on Saturday, and the Chiefs quickly scooped in to sign Shady and reunite him with head coach Andy Reid. Nick, can Reid rejuvenate LeSean McCoy?
I mean, if anyone can, it'd be Andy Reid in that offense with that quarterback, that many weapons. But I don't think anyone should expect LeSean McCoy to be an enormous difference maker for the Chiefs. Oh, you do?
What?
I mean, listen, I think
I can see 1,800.
Oh, you think he's going to have 1,800 combined yards from scrimmage?
He can do that.
Wow.
Listen, you talk about a guy for the last couple of years.
2014.
He was everything in Buffalo. Now he has protection. He's the third or fourth person that you're concerned about. So you're going to give Shady listen, this dude made me missing the whole chain and make change. This is a guy that's still very elusive. He's a guy that's a dual threat guy. He's a guy that's tough inside of the tackles, but also he still has the speed.
You had some battles with him, right?
I did.
And you're now a seasoned television pro, and he's still playing.
He's 31 years old.
Man, that's like
I remember Thomas Jones. I remember LT coming to us late in his career with a lot to prove. It took us to the AFC
Listen, if you're right, if he gets 1,800 yards from scrimmage, the Chiefs won't lose a game all year.
He's Jamal Charles. All over again. He's a guy that can average 5 yards a carry.
My goodness.
He's going to be playing against the lightest box.
Goodness.
Nick, I'll put some money on it.
Oh, I hope you're right.
1,500.
Speaking of running backs, let's end with the Chargers, who will likely be without their Pro Bowl running back, Melvin Gordon, Week 1, and perhaps even longer. As Gordon continues his holdout, Chargers GM Tom Telesco said they're halting extension talks until after the season, granting Gordon permission to seek a trade. Bart Scott, how much does Melvin Gordon's holdout impact the Chargers' Super Bowl chances?
I mean, they haven't had him much throughout their whole career. He's been injured. He's only played 16 games once. This reminds me like a guy coming out of the MAC conference and going pro. He getting some bad advice because he's not in the same situation as Ezekiel Elliott. He hasn't been able to perform. He hasn't even showed that he can be healthy. They've had to play a lot of these games without him. I mean, he's played 14, 13, 16, 12. I mean, he's a guy that's a good back. I wouldn't consider him great back. I wouldn't consider him a top 10 back in this league. So he needs to understand that he has a little bit more to prove. I mean, if he goes in, this year and he has a tremendous season, then he can double down and bet on himself. But he's not a $10 million plus, running back in this league.
The only thing elite about his career stat line are his touchdown numbers. His last 3 years, he's averaged 13 touchdowns a year, but that seems to be more situational how they use him because he averages less than 1,000 yards. He's a good pass-catching back, but he's not an elite pass-catching back, never topping 500 yards receiving. When this happened, Jenna, we said on this show, man, it sure seems like Melvin Gordon's overplaying his hand here. That he has someone telling him your value is X, and his value is X divided by 2, and he just doesn't know it. And that is how this has played out. And this is now, I don't think he has no value. I think the Chargers are better with him than without him, which is one of the reasons that I'm fading the Chargers this year. So Melvin Gordon, you don't know if you're going to have him, which while he might not be worth $10 million a year, I do believe he's better than Austin Eckler, who's their backup. The best player on their team, not named Phillip Rivers, is Derwin James. He's on the IR, so he's going to miss at least 2 months with the chance of coming back, but there's no guarantee he comes back. And one thing that I think we do poorly in sports television in general is we talk how important defense is. All the time in football, how important defense is. But when a defensive player gets injured or is lost for the year, we don't put the impact on it as an offensive player does. If an offensive player on a team potentially as good as the Chargers of Derwin James's caliber was put on the IR, we would be talking about how that team's playoff chances are just kneecapped. Derwin James like, next man up. He was an all-pro as a rookie, and people saw it coming. So the Chargers 7-1 in one-score games last year. That tends to revert back to the mean. Melvin Gordon's uncertain. No Derwin James. I think it's bad news for a Chargers team that was a tiebreaker away from the 1 seed last season.
They were close, 12-4 last year. The Chargers with Melvin Gordon maybe could have been Super Bowl contenders this year.
Well, they could have, but I think they can withstand. Gus Bradley is a tremendous defensive coach. They can figure things out. Phillip Rivers can put up enough points. They can win early.
All right, let's move on to the Texans now. After